Can you use vintage transformers with modern trains? Should you use vintage transformers with modern trains? Well, take a look on this episode of Toy Train Tips and Tricks. Hello again, this is Mike with another episode of Toy Train Tips and Tricks. And the topic of this episode was suggested by a regular viewer and commenter. He wrote that after reading an online hobby forum, he was confused about whether or not you could actually use an older transformer to run his modern Lionel trains, whether or not it was a good idea. And there was much debate on the forum about the roles of circuit breakers and fuses and diodes, and whether or not it was even a good idea to try to run modern trains with older transformers. So I'm going to try to break things down and present the best available information, and then you can decide for yourself what combination of tools, if any, you might want to use for that purpose, or whether you want to try it at all. And before I open that can of worms, some foundational information is necessary. And even before I cover that, let me first say that I am not an electrician, nor do I play one on television. So I will present the information in layman's terms. So some of the techno-babble may be wrong, and feel free to light me up in the comments if I use a wrong term that isn't quite correct with electronics theory. Remember, I'm an amateur at this. Second, I know from previous experience in diving into these types of discussions that in this topic there are lots of sacred cows out there, and there are folks on either extreme of the argument that will defend their side to the death, whether it's the I'm only going to use 100% contemporary components for my trains versus the I've been using wet cell batteries since 1926 and dipping my own copper strips in acid and it's never been a problem for me. So either way, you can fight that out in the comments section. So let's start by looking at the development of electrical safety devices for our trains and the reasons behind the development of those tools. If we go back to the earliest electric trains just before the turn of the 20th century, electronic devices of any kind were cutting-edge technology. Very few homes were wired for electric service, and so hobbyists used whatever they could find. And yes, that usually included wet cell batteries, taking strips of metal, dipping them in jars of acid, and using that reaction to create the electricity for the trains. Clearly, there were both safety and convenience issues with that system. And so the next development was dry cell batteries, such as those made by the Ever-Ready Battery Company, started by Joshua Lionel Cohen. Cohen, of course, later sold his share of the battery company to fund the creation of a company to make toy trains, and the rest is history. And in addition to battery power, some hobbyists used water power or even hand-cranked dynamos to supply the power to their trains. By the end of the 19-teens, we would have found that a state-of-the-art hobbyist would have had a transformer that looked a lot like this one, what we call a step transformer, because the voltages are in steps. Each of these little knobs along the way is a step of voltage. So for smooth running, you needed to add a separate rheostat so that you could fine-tune and control the voltage of the trains. While these are a great improvement over wet cell batteries and even dry cell batteries, from our perspective, these things are a safety nightmare. First of all, part of the current is running right here through this arm, and so as you're switching the voltages, if you're touching this and somehow you're grounded at the same time, it could be a shocking experience. Pardon the pun. So as more and more American homes were wired for electrical current, more and more safety issues were discovered, such as accidental electrocution and, of course, house fires caused from electrical overheating and short circuits. And so as transformers moved into the 1930s, the technology progressed so that First of all of the components were included inside a case. Early ones were metal, later plastic for even greater protection. The continuing threat of electrical fires led to the development of external circuit breakers that could be added to the train layouts. These were very slow-acting devices that may have provided some protection to the trains themselves, but the primary purpose of these was to protect the user from electrocution and from house fires from overheating due to overloads and short circuits. After all, the toy train motors of the time were very durable and could withstand long periods, really, of excessive voltage without causing any permanent damage. After the Second World War, insurance companies brought public pressure towards companies to focus more and more on electrical safety. And by the 1950s, virtually all toy train transformers had an internal circuit breaker. Now, again, these circuit breakers did provide some protection to the trains, but their primary purpose was to prevent electrocution and house fires in case of overloads and short circuits. Today's circuit breakers are even faster and are more precise, and while their primary purpose is still protection of the user and prevention of house fires, they are fast enough and delicate enough to provide significant protection to the trains and electronics in case of most short circuits and overloads. But are these included circuit breakers enough protection for our modern circuit boards like those in Lionel's legacy system or MTH Protosounds? Some hobbyists don't believe so, and they choose to install sacrificial instant blow fuses to their layouts. These provide the ultimate protection from overheating and short circuits and can be added even to older transformers to make them compatible with the modern standards, providing excellent protection again from short circuits and overloads. This way, even your old 1033 RWZW or whatever classic Lionel or Marx transformer can be brought up to the same standards as today's modern transformers. Now, we'll discuss which components you can use to accomplish this in just a moment, but first, let's consider, are overloads and short circuits the only threats that our modern circuit boards face? Let's look for a moment at the world of high-tech computers and high-end audio-visual equipment. These devices, like our trains, are filled with a large assortment of delicate electronic parts, microprocessors, diodes, capacitors, and more. And anyone who spends thousands upon thousands of dollars on this type of equipment will tell you that it's crazy just to plug it directly into a wall outlet. And even a multi-outlet strip like this with its own circuit breaker isn't the best protection for these types of devices. Instead, they will tell you that you simply must have a surge suppressor. But why a surge suppressor? Our residential power lines do not deliver a constant filtered current to our homes. Not only can the voltage vary by a volt or two during the transmission process, but many circumstances can cause brief surges of power, sometimes thousands of volts, to pass through our household wires. Changes in power use on the grid, lightning strikes, even solar flares can cause these surges in power, and even surges as short as a millisecond in duration can have catastrophic effects on delicate electronic components. Your toaster and your refrigerator may survive the effects of a lightning strike just fine, but your computer or your 4K television probably won't. So, to protect these delicate electronic devices, we use a surge protector, a device that's designed to absorb and redirect those power spikes so that they don't damage our components. But what does that have to do with our trains? Well, just like the main power lines to our houses, our layouts can also experience these short, high-voltage spikes. Sometimes they come from outside the home, but they can also be generated by the layout itself, such as when the metal wheels of rolling stock cross over an electrical contactor in the track. These power spikes are too short in duration to activate most circuit breakers or even fast flow fuses. So instead, we need a miniature version of a surge protector to eliminate these spikes and protect the delicate electronics in our trains, something called a transient voltage suppressor, or TVS diode, which is small, like this. A TVS is a special diode that is wired across our train circuit, across the hot and the common side of the circuit, but it doesn't cause a short circuit. Instead, any voltage above its base level and longer in duration than its base duration will be absorbed and redirected harmlessly away from our delicate electronic circuits. The TVS diode sacrifices itself to protect other components. The TVS works best when it is closest to the component that needs protection. So while wiring one to every transformer is a good idea, wiring them where the wires connect to the track is a better idea, and better still is wiring one right next to the circuit board inside the locomotive itself. In fact, many of our modern locomotive circuit boards include a TVS diode on the circuit board itself for just that reason. So why do you need one if the manufacturer has included a TVS? Well, because the TVS diode is sacrificial. It will likely eventually absorb a voltage spike that will destroy it. But a faulty TVS diode has no effect on the rest of the circuit, so you really don't know if it's working or not. The TVS can be dead and totally useless, and you may never know. But having multiple TVS diodes in a single circuit also does not have any negative impact on your circuit. So the more the merrier. And TVS diodes like this are cheap, under $2 a piece, and sometimes even under $1 a piece if you buy them in bulk. So go ahead and put one at the transformer output, put one at the track, and if you can, go ahead and stick one inside the locomotive. And you'll never have to worry about damage from a power spike on your layout again. The consensus choice among three-railers is the diode braided 1.5K E36CA, and that can be purchased from many different manufacturers. Now, the 1.5K E33CA also works in a pinch, but doesn't give you quite the same level of protection. So what's the best choice, a TVS or a circuit breaker? You will want a circuit breaker or a fuse to protect you from overloads and short circuits, but you will also want the TVS to protect you from voltage spikes. Oh, and by the way, you will want a TVS on every output of your transformer that you're using, whether it's for track or accessories. If you're using the output, you will want the TVS and a circuit breaker on each and every circuit that you're using. We already discussed how to wire up the TVS diode into your circuit, but what about the circuit breakers and fuses? While you can open up the old transformer and install a modern breaker on the inside, I do not recommend this. Not only can it be dangerous poking around the inside of a transformer's innards when you don't know exactly what you're doing, but it's also easier to install the circuit breaker or fuses externally from the transformer for easier access. You can get a small electrical project box or 3D print your own, or available from automotive suppliers or even Amazon, you can get fuse holders, which also work for the resettable circuit breakers. The breakers and fuses themselves can be simple automotive blade-type fuses and breakers that are found at any auto parts store. Simply choose the amperage and the style you want, whether it's automatic reset, manual reset, or a fuse. The circuit breakers or fuses should be wired to the hot side of the circuit. That's the one that goes to the center rail. Also, the fuses or breakers that you get may be labeled as being for DC power, and we're running AC, but in this case, because of the low voltages that we are talking about, it's perfectly fine. As an added measure of protection, I prefer to use a new breaker that is more sensitive than the original. As a rule of thumb, old transformers in the 50 to 75 watt range, I use a 4 amp breaker. Transformers 75 to 100 watts should go no higher than 5 amps, and those above 100 watts can use a 7 to 10 amp breaker. When in doubt, go smaller. These values are just rules of thumb for me. You can probably get away with inching them up a little bit higher. Check for expert opinions in the comment sections. I'm sure some people who are more electrically inclined than I will chime in. But there is another consideration: compatibility. While some aspects of our toy train designs have really not changed in the last 75 years or so, such as obviously the use of 3 rails, the operation of reverse units, and the general consensus that locomotive motors should operate somewhere in the 14 to 18 volt range, but ultimately model locomotives and accessories are designed to operate best with the transformers that are built at the same time. The result of that is that, for example, some post-war whistles don't play super well with modern transformer buttons, and vice versa. Some modern whistles don't like to operate with some old post-war transformers. In short, even after upgrading your old transformers with TVS diodes and modern circuit breakers, some modern trains still will not be 100% compatible with the older equipment. But as more and more of these functions of modern locomotives are handled by remote controls and Bluetooth devices, it's not as important what buttons you have on the transformer, as the functions are operated here instead of on a box on the transformer. So, can you operate modern trains with an older transformer? Yes, you can, but be sure to upgrade that older transformer with the modern safety devices of TVSs and either circuit breakers or fuses. Then the only real issue you may encounter is some compatibility issues between the functions on your transformer and the functions of the train, but again, that is becoming less and less of an issue as features move off of the transformer these days. Only you can decide if that is a major problem for you and with the equipment that you have. In any case, keep those trains running safely with the equipment that you have, and we'll catch you next time with more toy train tips and tricks.